Arc 1, Scholars and Legacies. Character card, Ezuric S. Bloodheart, age 14, 10. The blood waves washed onto the bone beach that worked with the sprinkling bloody rain to make a soothing symphony. A sky of darkness, not a star in sight. The only lights were from the bone-white clouds illuminating its white light and the aurora borealis that connected the clouds. A mixture of red, blue, green, purple, and white flowing like a transparent blanket in the sky with strands of black squirming within it. Every step I took felt like home, as always. The sight held a beauty of peace, a dream that would have been a joy to always return to if it wasn't for those two beasts always hunting me down to my death. A knight in full dark armor with a black fur cape and a black mask, wielding a sword that turned into a bow, or vice versa. Every strike was slow and precise. I would die in an instant. The second beast was a monstrous, angry brute who looked to be made with a bone exoskeleton, or is the bone itself. It wielded two gauntlets that turned into two shields that could emerge into a bigger shield. Death from him always was often slow and painful, intentionally restraining his punches so I wouldn't die in one hit. Character card unknown. Heights 7.2 Knight and 7.10 Brute. I couldn't run. I couldn't hide. Fighting is pointless. Doing nothing is worse. I always hated this nightmare. I stood in front of the shore as I watched them slowly walk out once more, the pure hatred flowing out of the brute like the blood dripping off it. Everything but fighting only angered him. Doing nothing made death so much more slow and agonizing. Standing right behind them on top of the ocean was the strange woman again, a bloody lumpy mask with small devil horns, fully covered with a lightly fitted dress. She held a closed book in her hand while simply looking at me as always. Something felt strange about her, like she didn't belong here. She didn't act like the others. There's nothing I could do about her, though. I can't speak to her, let alone get close without the beasts attacking. I have a vague memory of her speaking when I first saw her. When I first came to this beach 4 years ago during the Fatestone test to show my element affinity through some weird hologram that's tied to fate that I still don't understand, there were several types of bone creatures with antlers piercing their heads out of the sand and water to look at me. A weird crying woman who I never saw the face of and didn't see again in these dreams. And lastly, the masked woman standing next to the crying woman. Her mask dripped as much as the woman was crying. None of these creatures felt hostile in the beginning. Only the brute showed strong emotion towards me, and it was all negative. Despite the countless dreams over the years, I had them at least once a week, 3 on average. I fought against many creatures, mostly made of bone. From the incredibly weak to these monstrous beasts that's walking towards me once again. Very few I can win against. It was another night. Another death. Deciding not to wait until they reached me, I rushed forward. Seeing my initiative, the brute launched forward, high into the air. I quickly dived to the left just in time, as the brute crashed down with an explosion of sand. Conjuring small clouds beneath my feet, I begin running on top of them as I quickly ascend into the sky. The knight stopped his approach, turning his ring into a large bow. Placing the palm of his hand face down, he makes the bone sand beneath him flow upwards before forming a large arrow. Knight did as he always has done, watched, waited, slowly putting the arrow onto his bow while it still faced down to the ground. As I continued rising high into the sky as fast as I could, trying to reach the clouds. Each step was like a spring helping push me further up, conjuring a few clouds for my hands as well to grab one too. The brute collected a handful of bones and launched them at me. It happened so fast I could barely register the pain, only noticing after jumping up, reaching to grab another cloud with my right hand to see that my arm was gone. My heart sunk as I began falling. I could no longer focus enough on making another cloud to stop my descent. My eyes fell over to the masked woman, slowly sinking back into the blood ocean. Pondering about her identity once again when I heard something. The phantom whimpers of the crying woman, again echoing in my head like a one-sided conversation. Her voice was filled with mixed emotions this time, concern, exhaustion, desperation, love, sadness, and confusion. What does it matter who you save, who you conquer, or who you destroy when you can't keep a grip and fall, and those you've saved are killed, those you conquered are freed, and those you sought to destroy just watch us fall. My eyes widened when hearing her voice once again. I wanted to scream out, to demand answers, to know if she is the woman. As if feeling my eyes on her, just as the masked woman was nearly submerged back into the water, I could vaguely see her stop, turning around, staring at me before completely going under. Never understood these one-sided conversations with the woman or the masked woman that did nothing other than watch and leave after our first encounter, even though I can't remember what she said. That's when I heard the familiar sound of the knight's bow releasing the arrow. When I immediately looked towards the knight, all I saw was a blur of the arrowhead inches away from my eye before it all went black. Heavily panting as I woke up, drenched in sweat. My heart was pounding with adrenaline. Placing my hands on my face, feeling the urge to hide my head in my knees as the endless low whispers I had since birth started once again. Starting to hear chattering accompanied by laughter. I glanced over to see a pale skin-to-the-bone zombie that looked my age, dressed as a chef with an apron sitting on the backrest of my chair. "Ha ha ha! You should have seen your face! They must have got you good this time. Ha ha ha! Never gets old. A shame I missed it again." Groaning in annoyance, I gare over at the zombie and wave my hand dismissively. As if the whisperers weren't enough, the schizophrenia only got worse. Character card, John Doe, race undead. Height 5'10". Glad to see you're keeping things fresh with another new outfit, but none of your nonsense today. The zombie chuckled one last time before fading away with a slight formal bow to me, lifting with his chef hat to bring to his chest, revealing the messy patches of short, slick red hair. Once he was gone, I checked my phone for the time and saw that I got a message from Mother Mary that said, "Don't be late for enrollment for the Power Academy. Eyes. This is a special academy with a lot of great opportunities if you get in. Your parents wanted you to grow up strong, but that doesn't mean you need to pass. Only that you give it all you got in moments like this. So in the end, there's no pressure. They would be proud of you no matter what, just as I am. Oh, and dinner after school. A car will be waiting to take you there and here. Love, Mary." I barely finished reading the message when the pounding at the door echoed in my head. Before I could say anything, the door flung open, and I saw Alice grumpily stumping forward. She was already dressed for the enrollment. In one of her most comfortable outfits. She had a baggy crop-top pink hoodie with a black tank top underneath. A beautiful pink and white skirt down to the middle of her thighs with black baggy sweatpants underneath and white sneakers. "Don't act like you can't hear me. Hurry up and take a shower. If you make us late, I'm telling Mother Mary." Staring at her without speaking for a moment, unsure if she was also a hallucination. Not completely dismissing the idea when I stood up and pushed her onto the bed with a mocking tone. Character card, Alice A. Atlas. Evergarden race, half vampire. Appearance Ukrainian-American. Age 14, height 5'50". Blah, blah, blah. I can just tell her it's your fault. Of course she's going to believe me. Now stop barging in my room. One of these days you're going to regret it. Watching me eat all your favorite snacks I didn't share. You'll be heartbroken, and it will be all your fault. I continued looking Alice in the eyes, trying my best to determine if she's a hallucination or not. Deciding her eyes looked too focused to be a hallucination, filled with shock and aggression when hearing my words as she fell back on the bed. "You wouldn't dare to not share snacks with me. Don't even joke about that." Alice was going to say more until she noticed how intensely I was looking at her. The aggression left her face and she stood up, looking back into my eyes for a few seconds before gently headbutting my head and keeping ours pressed together and spoken more softly. "Don't worry, I'm real. Now hurry up." I let out a sigh of relief hearing her confirm she's real, giving her a soft headbutt before gathering some clothes and waving her off dismissively. "Out, out, out, and stop rushing me. We have plenty of time. You just want a nap." And I thought I was the lazy one. Alice simply huffs at the truth before leaving. After taking a shower and freshening up, I was greeted with another day of my clothes being swapped out for whatever Alice deemed appropriate. I could only be thankful she resembles my normal style, or it would be a lot harder to tolerate. Getting dressed with baggy black sweatpants firmly fitted around the waist. A white fur pelt with a black undertone and pink highlights she made for me, really wanting me to wear a skirt to match, but settled on a pelt. Functioned as a nice belt as well. The pelt wraps all the way around with 2 slits, one on each side down the middle of the thighs. There was a custom hole to fit my tail through. She even made hoops blended into the pelt, since I often wrap my tail around me to hide it. The loops help it rest around me without me having to secure it tightly. Also benefit from looking more like an accessory. My tail was matted black with emerald green patterns on it, taking the shape of simplistic narrowed eyes with a predatory slit for an iris. Still trying to get used to my tail. It started to grow around puberty, along with a growth spurt, and my ears got a bit larger and rounder like a feline. The other thing puberty did was grow 8 additional canine teeth, 2 behind the outer sides of each primary canine. It was quite painful. Don't know why it didn't just change my teeth and just grow more at the back. Instead, I felt my teeth and jaw shifting. The muscle on the edge of my lip and cheek changed slightly too, allowing me to open my mouth wider to balance it, just in case I wanted to still use my molars, I guess. Glancing in the mirror, just to make sure I cleaned all my teeth properly in the shower. My original canines, I was told, were developing larger and sharper as early as the age 4 because I enjoyed ripping the meat pieces with my own teeth, and I just adapted. Now they're 2 centimeters long, descending to the back from 1.7 to 1.5 centimeters for my other canines, top and bottom alike. Pretty sure I got it from my real mother, just like my tail. Come to think of it, these extra teeth are probably from my mother, and I adapted because of my father's ability. Nevertheless, my teeth were still impressive, even bigger than Alice's vampiric canine teeth. Her top teeth are 1.7 centimeters and lower being 1.5 centimeters. Her teeth are definitely sharper though, certainly made for piercing and not slicing like mine. Although I feel like my sharpness can change, there's still much I don't know and how it works. In my downtime, I still keep testing and studying about my body like my mother suggested. Well, don't we look nice? And here I thought we were going formal. At least one of us will look nice for the ladies. Glancing up into the mirror to greet the familiar zombie voice as I finished straightening my clothes, seeing him dressed in a tuxedo and fixing his bow tie. Then using his fingers to comb back the wild, patchy mess of the short, straight, red hair. As he finished talking with a sarcastic tone, he stepped to the door, opening it up and presenting me the way to go. Right this way, commoner. I moved closer, reaching out and ruffling his hair before plucking a singular strand to his dismay, speaking dismissively while I continued glaring. You better be getting your nonsense out now, because if you mess this up, I'll make sure you go completely bald, then take away your mouth. The zombie gasped, holding his head to hide his hair, beginning to walk backwards out of the bathroom and down the hall out of sight with his last words. Just what a common thug would do. No respect. I scoffed, ignoring his antics, walking closer to the open door and reaching out, grabbing the original unseen door handle, the open door shimmering green before vanishing as I opened the real door. I went to where Alice is to tell her I'm ready. After one last check to make sure we're not forgetting anything, we left the dorm room. A big cloud appeared at waist level. Alice doesn't hesitate to belly flop on it. I take the lead and we start heading out of the dorm. I glanced back at Alice while she's getting comfortable. Did the others still decide not to try out the academy enrollment? She shook her head. No, they still say it's not worth the effort. They're sticking with the fast-track program. They only want to get everything they need to make money for a comfortable life that way. We probably won't be able to hang out as much until we graduate and start running dungeons and gates together. But we could still play games until then. I simply grunt in affirmation as we continued our way out. Making it to the front door, I open it for the cloud to float past me. Greeting the early morning air, there are many people already walking about. Middle schoolers coming in for the first time, high schoolers changing buildings, and people like us leaving Murgarak campus to enroll into an academy, ours being the Power Academy. Unlike the Hero and Villain Academy, the Power only focuses on making people strong. Although I never thought of being a hero or villain, it is the best place to get training. With that, I can make money and go buy a farm like the one we had to leave. Mother Mary says we can always go back there and be welcomed by those she passed the church down to, but it wouldn't be the same. I plan on leaving all of this. This war, this nation, all of it. I'll explore the world, find a nice plot of land, build my farm and live on it, at peace. A rather simple plan. Alice thinks it is too simple, but I will just worry about the details later. First, I need to pass enrollment. As we near the pickup spot, I signal Alice to fly up higher and look for the car. The cloud took her up higher above everyone's heads. After about a minute, she grabbed the edge of the cloud with one hand, leaning down to face me as she pointed off in a direction. Found it. It's over there. I can't see for sure, but it looks like it's not a normal driver this time. Alice came back down with the cloud as we continued walking in the direction. I was a little curious as to who it would be. Didn't have to wait long as we made it to the pickup zone. Greeted by a smiling tattooed nun standing with her hands clasped in a formal demeanor. The closer we got, the more that demeanor started to crumble. A cold, stoic look fading into a giddy excitement, nearly bouncing on her feet as she tries to maintain her composure. Character card, Sister Sylvia, race human. Appearance white. Hygiene A2, class fateful canvas chosen. Title The Brush of Faith. Affinity water and earth. Bloodline ink. Hello. Sister Alice and Brother Isuric. I mean son of Mary. Oh dear, I messed up again. Please forgive me. I'm just so excited. Look how much you two have grown. You're like little giants already. Alice and I couldn't help but start giggling as we approached closer. It was obvious she was quickly becoming overwhelmed. I liked that she did her best to keep the whims of a child alive. When I was younger and didn't understand religion, I just thought Sister Mary had a bunch of sisters. Refusing to call her my sister, I just called her Mother Mary. Referring to all of them as my aunties, Alice started to do the same. Men are extremely rare in their church. Due to the religion and devotion, I would have been referred to as brother. But I refused that and declared, "I'm not your brother, I son of Mary." Makes me laugh just thinking about it. When we're finally face to face, I crouched down to hug Sylvie cheek to cheek as she continued speaking. I could feel her strength slowly crushing me as she unknowingly forced me into a tighter embrace, lowering me further down just below her. Tears of joy started to pour as her professionalism faded. By her mercy, and now I'm crying. I told Sister Mary that I wouldn't cry. Alice, knowing her fate, joined in the embrace to be crushed all the same. Sylvie's cheeks smashed between ours like a head sandwich. I rubbed Sylvie's back, trying to comfort her. "We missed you too, Auntie. They say when we pass we'll get a bit more freedom in high school, so that means we can stop by at the church and help out more." "Yeah, that's right, Auntie. You're going to see this a lot more often. But first we have to actually get there," Alice added, trying to help Sylvie regain her composure, although not daring to end the hug that she herself wanted. After a little longer, Sylvie slowly let us both go, wiping the eyes of her tears and taking a moment to clear her throat as she returned to her formal posture. Now, since we got that out of the way, let's get you kids where you need to go, for if you're on time, you're already an hour late." She held a warm smile with tender eyes that gazed upon us, opening the backseat door to the armored black Hummer for us and guided us in. "Right this way, son of Mary, Sister Alice." Alice and I smiled, giving a short, respectable bow of our heads and climbed into the car. I could see all our belongings packed in boxes in the truck. It's not like we had much since we knew it would always be temporary until we graduate. After Sylvie climbed in as well, she drove us out of the campus. It was rare we got to leave the campus, and for not growing up in the city, it was always surprising how everything works. Huge buildings, flashy colours, and a lot of metal built into the ground, walking around or even on people's bodies, replacing their body parts with implants. Metal even flying around in some cases. I learned most flying vehicles are primarily the rich medical vehicles and law enforcement. The roads were huge, built into 4 sections. From the centre outwards it was the main road, personal transport, buses and sidewalk. For safety, each was 2 car lengths wide. To limit the vehicle traffic, everywhere in Fort Doraman, they encourage people to use personal transport or buses. Personal transport is pretty much anything you can get on and use, then pick up and take with you. You see a lot of hoverboards and bicycles, some flying discs, and a lot of weird stuff too, like a hover chair. Some smaller, slower devices like rollerblades or regular skateboards are still used on sidewalks. As the drive went on, Alice got out of her seatbelt and laid across the back seat, using a small cloud as a pillow. Glancing out the window, you could tell when you were in a major faction territory. The scenery becomes dramatically different. Territory held for a long time tends to take different themes, plus more patrols, robots walking and flying around. As we got farther from the campus, more and more people were around. Depending on the territory, crime would be high or low, out in the open or hiding down alley, regardless of how many heroes were around. And just as I had that thought while we waited at the stoplight, there was a big boom right in the intersection. A giant crater in the ground, followed by a second boom in the crater, exploded outwards, almost covering the whole intersection. The 4 cars in front of us were crushed by the debris. It seems we were just out of the larger rocks. Mid-size and smaller ones still pepper the windshield, but either ricocheted or exploded on contact. A few hard pieces hitting the roof that shook the car, but didn't leave a dent. By this point, Alice was sitting upright. I could feel my heart racing faster. Although there were a few troubles when we left campus, I never was too close to something so dangerous. My hands clenched the back of the passenger's seat. I could see Auntie Sylvie preparing to unbuckle her seatbelt with her hand on the door. A part of me thought she was preparing to have us run away until I saw her serious fighting face. I was left to wonder what she was going to do. She only stopped when the dust was cleared, seeing more people already approaching the crater. Once Sylvie felt everything was fine, she looked back at us with a more concerned look, reaching her right hand back to stroke our heads. As tiny as she is, she was practically sitting on her knee to reach back. "Everything's fine, don't worry. This car is quite tough. It looks like people are here, so we're just going to quickly drive around. So hold on tight and buckle up, little missy. We're not going to let this make us late." She sounded a bit more stern when addressing Alice. I did my best to get a good look at the intersection. From the right side, after jumping and maneuvering around cars, came 3 people with body armor. One guy fully armored head to toe, while the other 2 were lightly armored women. They kind of looked like twins from here, at the very least matching ponytails and outfits. From the right appeared very tall, muscular women. One wielded a sword and shield and lightly armored with revealing fabric, while the other woman looks to be more machine than human. I wasn't sure if it was a suit or an android, because only her head was human. She wielded a giant rifle of some kind. In the middle of the crater were the 2 men that crashed together. Several duffel bags scattered, a few of which were not closed properly, with money spilling everywhere. One man was in the middle of trying to pick it up and stuff it back in the bag. The other man was only wearing shorts that would be down to the knees if it wasn't burnt at the edges. His whole skin shimmered with flames. Just after they all made it to the intersection, the soldiers pointed their weapons at both the 2 parties. The tall women raised their weapons, and the taller one held her shield up defensively. Small flames appeared in the man's hands while standing in the crater and glancing around at both groups. Only a few seconds passed in the standoff before 2 more groups arrived. The first group were 2 men that jumped down from the building next to the soldiers, both donning swords still sheathed, but hands at the ready. The last group was walking down the opposite from behind us. A man and a woman. The girl held 2 submachine guns out with 2 of her swords sheathed behind her. The man had one sword already unsheathed and the blade resting on his shoulder. Auntie Sylvie did her best to make sure we stayed quiet and calm. I could tell by her hands tightly gripping the steering wheel that she was waiting for something. "Hold on," Sylvie whispered, driving backwards before slowly pulling out into the opposite side of the road. The car was quieter than usual. No, I think it's completely silent. One thing I know for sure is that it didn't remain silent for long. Just as all 5 groups were now staring each other down in the intersection, a loud roar from the car erupted from the exhaust. I felt a giant weight pushed me back into my seat as we quickly accelerated. It was a blur. I only saw the back of the woman who held the 2 guns hitting the windshield. Sounds of gunfire from all directions before they were drowned out by the rushing flames that engulfed the car. It lasted for a few seconds before the car felt like it hit a brick wall, jerking us forward. The flame soon died down. The man that was on fire was pushing up against the front of the car to keep it from moving. The engine was roaring. Quickly glancing around at the surroundings, the two swordsmen were pressing forward on the soldiers. One of the men looked more primal than I first thought, pointy ears with sharp teeth. The tall machine woman with the rifle was firing behind us. I guessed at the other two that came from our direction. I couldn't see the second guy that was in the crater. Either he dove left, underneath the car, or behind us. I did see the duffel bags, a bunch of small devices in the bags along with the money I initially saw. When my eyes glanced over to the other tall woman with the sword and shield, for some reason her body held my attention. When I looked into her eyes, I could have sworn she was looking directly into mine. The more I focused, the foggier my mind started to become. I felt something building up inside of me. Point of view change. After Nadia and Willow finally arrived, they saw the two suspects reported stolen valuable equipment, as well as money. Even they realized they weren't the first to arrive. 3 mercenaries from the opposite end were standing with their weapons ready. She held her shield at the ready while Willow aimed her rifle. It wasn't long before 2 more groups joined in the Mexican standoff. Character card, Nadia race, human, Amazon appearance. Scottish-German age, 37. Height, 7'3", rank, chosen. Character card, Willow race, human. Amazon appearance, South African-Canadian, 28. Height, 6', awakened. Just what the hell did they steal to elicit this many people to come? Nadia thought to herself. Then suddenly she felt a spike in mana, a Hummer to her left running into one of the people from behind. With such power she flew several feet up into the air before crashing down. This sparked everyone else to start firing and charging at each other. Any bullets and energy rounds that weren't dodged crushed the bullets or sizzled against shields. The second target, Dante, jumped out of the way, while the other target, Tuca, conjured a tornado of flames directed towards the Hummer as it continued forward until it crashed into him. Using his strength, Tuca managed to bring the car to a halt after being dragged a couple feet, with his feet breaking the ground further. While Nadia and Willow remained playing defensive to analyze the situation and how it will play out, Nadia noticed a young boy in the back of the Hummer. She could feel his eyes on her, analyzing her up and down. Nadia felt a worrying sensation, a strange need to kill the kid. The feeling was minimal that she could easily ignore. Nadia notices the kid, on the other hand, must be feeling something similar. His soft gazing eyes filled with worry turned primal, full of hate. Kill the boy. The voice in Nadia's head whispered angrily, demanding immediate action. Without having information, she deemed it foolish. Turning off for ability and ignoring the voice, but not entirely. When turning off her ability, her eyes turned from red to her natural brown. Thinking while taking another look at the boy, seeing all of his aggression was replaced with a slightly confusing look while meeting each other's gazes. Without looking elsewhere, Nadia spoke to her partner. Willow, secondary objective. We need to get the boy. Willow nodded, turning her sight onto Tuca, charging a more concentrated round before letting it go, firing and piercing the shield barrier along with his knee, making him collapse while the Hummer begins driving on top of him. Seeing an opportunity, his partner Dante gathered all the duffel bags he could carry, hopping on top of the car to ride it out as it finished riding over Tuca and drove down the street. The car made it halfway down the road before a deep, quick boom echoed from one of the twin mercenaries. A large mana-infused grenade launched, flying through the air, landing right on the side of the Hummer, only missing a direct head by a few feet. Dante goes flying in the air. The Hummer flipped twice to the right in the air before landing upside down, grinding against the sidewalk, nearly hitting a few lingering bystanders. Nadia and Willow are already jogging down the road. Willow laying down cover fire while jogging backwards. Just as they were nearing the Hummer, for Nadia and Willow could focus their attention on the crash, they saw the nun was already out fighting against Dante when another deep, quick boom was sounded. Hearing the sound, Dante turned around and placed his hand up in a panic, quickly activating his skill and instantly redirected the grenade just when it was about to hit him, sending the grenade down the street. Seeing the direction, the nun let out a cry, knowing the grenade was heading towards the two kids running. The girl ran ahead, holding the boy's hand. The grenade landed on top of a nearby parked car, exploding it, sending the two kids flying. Their hands slipped from their grips. A thin layer of cloud formed behind the girl, just as she went crashing through a window. The boy went flying down the alleyway out of sight. Just as Nadia and Willow neared the nun, she spoke loud enough for her to hear. "We'll go to the kids. We can heal. Don't let that man escape." Sylvia was overwhelmed with emotions, anger and worry. When hearing Nadia's words, her body still warred against her. She was familiar with them and their good deeds, but she wanted to be the one to go to the kids. Sylvia already knew she couldn't let the man escape, and if they both specialize in healing, they were a better choice to go to the kids. She didn't like to have to rely on a stranger's trust for the care of Izuric and Alice, despite the protections she put in place. She was supposed to protect her family. Yet, she simply nodded her head and continued engaging with the man, conjuring her sword and no longer relying on her fist to knock him out when she realized her pistol did not work. While Willow went to check on the girl who flew through the window, Nadia rushed down the alleyway to find the boy unconscious and face down. Crouching down, she sheathed her sword and placed her shield behind her back, gently cradling the boy in her arms, using her ability to check his body. Although she can see where he is hurt, scrapes across his face and a bleeding head, she couldn't sense anything inside. She was certain there would be internal damage. It was until Nadia made an actual effort to look past his illusion to see his injuries. She was genuinely impressed how he can hide and disguise with his manner. The boy slowly came to, his body began trembling as each moment passed. His confused, frightful eyes glanced around. Some of his shaking dies down when sensing Nadia, a little more when he noticed her hand holding him. His eyes, although frightful, held interest. Glancing towards her chest, Nadia didn't feel anything inappropriate about it, the same innocent interest as his eyes glanced up her neck, lips, nose, until he met her red eyes. In an instant, his eyes turned primal, baring his teeth while lunging for her jugular. His nails turned into thick claws. Nadia's initial shock just as instantly faded. Feeling no true danger, easily restraining the boy by his wrists and keeping his arms spread outwards, she held him off the ground to meet her eye level. He squirmed violently and thrashed his body like a feral animal. Low, guttural hissing, veins appearing on his neck and around his eyes with intensity. He kicked her thighs and stomach. When seeing that had no effect, he pressed against just below her breasts with both feet, trying to slip his hand from her grasp, nearly dislocating his own shoulders. With a flexible motion, Nadia used her leg to remove and stop his efforts. She continued to observe and analyze his increasing deranged behavior, becoming shocked for the second time when the boy turned his neck and aimed to bite off his arm to get free. Nadia places the boy up against the alley wall, one hand grabbing his jawline while the other grasping both of his hands, bringing them above his head and effortlessly pinning them against the wall, putting her knee on his stomach to further keep him pinned. There is no sense left behind those eyes, are there? You have no soul, yet you're not a demon. What exactly are you? She spoke to herself and not expecting the boy to answer, let alone understand anything. He continued thrashing as much as he could, making zero headway with her overwhelming strength that took no effort to restrain him. Nadia's third shocking surprise came when the boy bit and sliced her hand, causing it to actually start to bleed. Holding her hand up to her own face to look closer, "Those are some dangerous teeth," she spoke to herself. The boy opened his mouth widely. Inside of his mouth, hovering above his tongue, was a cloud forming quickly, moving and morphing erratically as it was growing larger with a large amount of mana poured into it incredibly fast. The cloud started to produce electricity, shooting off against his teeth. After a few more seconds of build-up, a concentrated beam of fog burst out. Nadia blocked the beam directed towards her face with her hand. Just as the beam hit, she could feel the constant electric shock traveling through her hand to just below her wrist. The fog beam that was redirected slowly expanded out to cover her upper half within the fog, becoming slightly more dense around the head. Lighter shocks of electricity flowing throughout the fog, hitting her all over. Nadia started to think to herself once again, if I was the average citizen, this could probably do a lot of damage or even kill me. Pushing her hand closer until she grabbed his jaw once more, forcing his mouth closed. Noticing the boy's nails slowly turning pure dark, Nadia decided it was enough seeing what the boy is and didn't want him to suffer any longer. Deactivating her ability, turning her eyes back to brown. It took a little second longer while looking into her eyes, but the aggression instantly started fading. The boy's body became limp, only being held up by her grip. Nadia decided to pick him up and cradle him once again. While Nadia was walking back down the alleyway, she used a small healing syringe and put it in her hand, clearing up the wounds left from the bite and the few dark spots where the electricity entered her body. Few seconds later, the boy slowly started to come to again, but this time far more groggy. Nadia thought it would be a good time to probe for answers. Point of view change. Last thing I remembered was an explosion, then I went flying, flipping, hitting my head and scraping against the ground. I tried to stand up, then everything went dark. I must have passed out. I tried to think, but the splitting headache made it hard to focus. My body felt weak, more like a lazy heaviness. I could barely move. Took a second to realize I'm not on the ground. Slowly glancing around, noticing I'm being carried, I glance up at the familiar face. Hello there, sweetie. My name is Nadia. I help keep the city safe, you could say. Looks like you hit your head, but it doesn't look like you have any major injuries. What's your name, cutie? Nadia spoke with almost a whisper, as if not trying to make loud noises. It was appreciated. I couldn't bring myself to answer right away. Everything still seems foggy, glancing around a bit more as I was trying to focus. My name is Zurich. I appreciate you picking me up off the floor, but I'm not a princess. I didn't really know how to feel. Embarrassed? Uncomfortable? I wasn't quite sure. Still couldn't figure out what I should do just yet. Or, you don't like being carried? I couldn't just leave you on the filthy ground and get these nice clothes even more dirty. With a reluctant, low, humming grunt of agreement. It was definitely better than being on the floor. It is hard to focus. I suppose you're right. Thank you, Nadia. Deciding and being held like this isn't the most comfortable position. I conjured a small layer of clouds beneath her hand to slowly lift me up, angling me upright and gently hover back down to my feet. Glancing up at her to meet her gaze while she continued the conversation. Do you remember anything about the explosion and what happened next? The car exploded, my friend went into the window and I flew down the alley. My head kind of still hurts from where I hit it and my face was scraped. My insides kind of hurt a little, but I felt worse. I tried to get up but couldn't. Then I woke up in your arms. My head's kind of foggy, a little hard to focus. Pretty sure I'll be fine, though. I answered her as honestly as I could, leaving out that I could look at my own internal self to figure out the damage and danger of my injuries. I knew I would just heal soon enough. Shrugging a little at the situation, although it kind of happened fast, not much really happened. Nadia's eyes were filled with worry and concern while I spoke. Her eyes looked a bit grateful by the end of it. I suppose she's happy it didn't end worse. I could understand that since Alice went through glass... Wait, Alice. My heart started to race with concern. I grabbed onto the woman by her arm tightly and spoke with urgency. My friend, what happened to the girl I was with? Is she safe? One foot was already turned around as I was prepared to run the rest of the way to check myself before I heard Nadia speak up. Yes, she should be fine. My friend went to go get her. She's a healer. One of the best I know. Look, she'll be here soon to make sure you're okay. A weight lifted off my chest, but I wasn't fully at ease yet. I could feel my body start shaking again with fear as the fog continued to clear from my mind. Oh, okay, that's good. Nadia held my hand and she crouched down a little to eye level, her other hand caressing my face. It did well to distract me, but don't know why she's getting awfully close. Looking back deep into her eyes to meet her gaze while she spoke. Don't worry, sweet little baby. We're going to make sure you are getting out of here safely. My eyes narrowed at her words. Despite her lovely tone, it felt condescending. Pulling free from her hand, I Galerius slightly into her eyes, speaking with mild annoyance, disbelief, with a bit of my own humour. I'm not a baby, and I'm not little. I'm like 6 babies tall, and I was going to say more before Nadia cut me off, gently squishing my face. And 6 babies of adorable! Look at you all handsome. Going somewhere special? I pressed one hand up against her face, trying to push her away while I spoke. I'm going to the Power Academy, and just so you know, Mother may say it's bad, but I'm not afraid to bite a lady. Immediately opening my mouth to try to nip at her hand, I could only hear the sound of my teeth clashing against each other. Didn't even notice how she moved her hand away fast. She began to giggle, holding her hands up with surrender as she stood up more properly. Her mannerism still seemed friendly, a slight teasing tone in her voice, though. Whoa, that's a sharp bite you got there. I surrender. I don't want to feel that. I was going to say something before I heard chuckling from behind, along with the sound of metal steps. It's only been a few minutes, and you're already getting bullied by the boy you're supposed to protect. Just what did you do this time, Nadia? It's not my fault, Willow. I was just saying he looks all adorable and handsome. Nadia pouted, crossing her arms underneath her breasts. Willow continued her approach until she was right on the side of me, still addressing Nadia. I bet you tried to squish his face. Don't mind her, Izuric. She fails to distinguish between animals, beasts, and chimeras like yourself. She pointed at my tail that unknowingly was out of the loop of my pelt and swaying about. I still wasn't used to that damn thing. I rarely even notice it, unless it's touched or in the way. She took out a tablet and used it to scan my body. While continuing talking, her voice was a more playful teasing tone, although I couldn't tell if she was trying to tease me or Nadia. Although, I hear boys your age tend to be aggressive and mean to girls they like. Do you have a little crush on the fearless Amazon Nadia? I was taken aback at her words, speechless. Willow and Nadia bickered back and forth, all the while Willow handed me a healing potion in a corked glass bottle. I drank the potion and handed it back to her while she paid attention to the device. I could feel it take effect, flowing through my body, washing away the lingering pain and closing my wounds. Even the blood dissipated. Keeping my attention towards Willow, I replied, "Why would aggression mean you like somebody? That just doesn't make any sense." Willow chuckled as she put the device away. Standing back upright, she placed her hand towards me. I saw a hole open up in her hand while she sweetly spoke. Some people just don't know how to express their feelings. Now hold still. Let's get you all cleaned up so you can go back to your auntie. A burst of mist and wind flew out of her hand. She angled it to make sure it got all over my body. I analyze myself as I see it removing all dirt and stains, cleaning me like new. I was going to say something, but she didn't miss a beat and continued the conversation with Nadia. After I took care of the girl Alice, a tough little girl, and very sweet. Her fall was broken, so there were just minor injuries. I went back to help the nun Sylvia, mainly to stop her from toying and torturing him like a pincushion, but Dante is secured. I helped flip the car back over and brought it down the street out of any more grenade launches, just in case. Sylvia and Alice are waiting there. The others are still occupying themselves. Looks like reinforcement will decide who wins if we don't join. Once I was all clean, I only had a second to double-check myself before Willow crouched down and wrapped her left arm below my butt and picked me up. I was completely flabbergasted, frozen with the sheer unbelief I was being held like a child again, just staring blankly in defeat. "Hold on tight," Willow said just as she began sprinting fast, well, jogging perhaps. When she felt my grip tightened around her shoulder and chest plate, she picked up the speed to go out faster out of the alleyway and down the street. Nadia was right behind us. I could barely see her with the wind pushing against my face. The long street conversed in mere seconds. There was no way I could do that even with my clouds. Already at the corner where Willow put me down and pointed off to the side where Sylvie and Alice were. "They're over there waiting for you." I took a step back, looking up at both of them with my arms crossed, thinking over how I feel about them. I could feel my eyes subconsciously narrow. Then I just pointed at both of them when I spoke. "You're both strange. Especially you, Nadia. You're weird. And you're pretty cool, Willow. Your body or armor thingy is super awesome. I want one of those. Nadia looked heartbroken, frowning as she leaned forward, pointing her finger back at me and bringing it close to my face. As her hand changed, coming even closer to my face like she was trying to pinch my cheek. Weird? How could you be so cruel? I just wanted to compliment your pretty tail, lovely ears, gorgeous eyes, and adorable cheeks. And you threatened to bite me. When Nadia's finger was close enough, I didn't hesitate to lean my head forward and use my canines to bite down hard on her finger. I was surprised she didn't move her hand away this time and let me bite her. She didn't even flinch. Looking up at her, she was smirking. I tried to bite down harder, that left her giggling. Oh, maybe you do have a crush on me, threatening to bite me but only nibbling. It's like you don't even want to hurt me. I stopped biting her finger. Just how strong was this lady? It's true I didn't want to truly hurt her the first time, but after I bit harder, it still didn't even leave an indent. Come to think of it, I probably shouldn't bite somebody who brought a shield and sword to a gunfight with the military. I just glared up at her more intensely. No touching, you weirdo. But also, thank you. Although I had a bit of conflicting feelings, they did save me and Alice and even healed us. Mother Mary wouldn't forgive me if I was unappreciative. I stepped forward, wrapping my arms around Nadia's waist and putting my head to her chest, giving her a quick, sincere hug. She gently rubbed my back and patted my head while she spoke tenderly. It's what we do. Help those in need and do our best to keep it all safe for little angels like you. I did the same to Willow. I didn't notice it before, but for some reason when she rubbed my back and patted my head, it didn't feel hard like I thought metal would. She somehow made the hardness feel gentle. Thank you for thinking I'm cool. Now hurry up before you're late for the academy. Good luck. Forward to see what you will grow into. After ending the hug, I conjured a cloud like a snowboard below me, riding off into the air to quickly make it over to Auntie and Alice. All of us embraced each other before hopping into the car and driving off. Point of view change. Once they drove off, Willow looked at Nadia with a concerned and a more serious look when talking. Learned quite a bit from the little girl. Apparently she's half vampire. One of the kids that was taken and experimented on and managed to escape. They're both orphans. Azuric was raised by the church and she was quickly adopted, officially years later though, but always been around due to their close bond. Apparently the boy also has schizophrenia, and she looks after him in a sense. He tends to lose sense of reality. All the kindness was absent from Nadia's face when she listened. A cold, serious look replaced it, glancing down at her finger that she provoked Azuric to bite. Seems you had a more lovely interaction. I would have killed the boy if he wasn't so kind. Maybe, I don't know. There's something wrong with him, though, something he doesn't even know. His eyes linger on me like he has a vague sense of my very presence. When my skill is active, I feel like he knows exactly where I am. His eyes are more intense, watching me with unknown interest. The problem comes when he meets my eyes. To say he's overcome with pure disdain, hatred, unbound fury would be a kind thing to say. The boy went feral. Losing all rationale and sense of self, he would have done anything to see me gone, even preparing to bite off his own arm to escape my grip. He bit through my flesh, and unawakened child bit through my flesh. Willow. I'm not the most durable, but that still shouldn't happen. His teeth are abnormally durable and sharp too. I didn't count, but it definitely looks like a few more than normal. Maybe just additional canines. Not to mention the strength of his jaw and the lack of preservation. Almost dislocated his shoulder, and he definitely hurt himself biting me, yet even when conscious, he overall ignored the pain. The more Willow heard, the more in shock she was. It felt like she met somebody totally different than who she was talking to. He was definitely in pain before I healed him. I could see it when I scanned him, cracks all over his head, ribs and along the jaw. A lot of damage around his jaw muscles from the strain, and he shrugged it off like it was nothing, a kid. The girl didn't mention anything that suggests why that would be. Nadia rubbed her hand over her face while contemplating before speaking. Not only that, he burned my hand with electricity, or maybe pure lightning. He made it happen through a cloud he spewed out of his mouth. Though, just as quickly as all of it started, when I turned off my skill, it only took a second before he passed out. Woke up not knowing anything that happened. Still surprises me he's not a demon. Not an ounce of demonic aura or anything. It would be a lot easier if I at least knew if he was like us or some supernatural cause, but that's not my specialty. He might be worse than a demon. Given how intensely they demanded I kill him, it seems I have to do a bit more research on my own skills. I'm clearly missing something. Definitely have to figure out who this kid is. I have a few ideas, but I want to be sure. Willow nodded, picking up one of the duffel bags they secured, turning around back down the street where the other groups are still engaging with each other, glancing at Nadia while she replied, "We should probably keep that as a secondary objective. Hopefully he doesn't meet any more people like us until you've made your decision. If he does, they're definitely in for a surprise." They both began to walk back, preparing their weapons for another fight. Nadia chuckled. A strange boy without a soul, a half-vampire, and both protected by the church. I suppose if anyone was going to love them, it would be them despite the church customs. I got a feeling just going to be a lot more surprises with these new generations. Point of view change. Alice held my hand a lot tighter than normal on the drive. If that wasn't enough to clue me in, her facial expressions were more focused, determined. Even Sylvie hugged us extra tight, apologizing for not protecting us better. I was happy to reunite, but I feel like the odd one out again. Another situation where I just can't understand why they feel this way. Being better didn't stop the 4 cars from being crushed in front of us. Who's to say staying there would have been more safe, or our hands not slipping would make me fly into the wall and not the alley? The moment passed and we're still here. Maybe it's a girl thing. Well, Zero showed some similar behaviors with his sister Zarya, although more reluctant. Maybe I'm thinking too much again. If it helps, then it helps. I squeezed Alice's hand tighter to match and smiled at Sylvie through the rear-view mirror.